Yo, what's up? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to another installment in the Let's Dive into Kratom series. Here we dive into a more subjective side of things in this series, and explore how Kratom will be while engaged in various activities and tests. I do recommend you go check out prior episodes for this, especially the first one, since that's more informational, but it won't be necessary. Here today we're focused on how things went for the green strains. We started with the red strains, which I would consider more so in sedating, then moved into the yellows, which is what we did last. I would say the greens can be pretty comparable to yellows at times, or the golds, depending on how we want to look at it. They're kinda in this in-between state, but I feel like greens are a more balanced version of what Kratom is. Greens too I would say are by far the most common, at least in my experience. And I find with greens, rather than having this theme of sedation or something like stimulation like you find with whites, the dosage really will determine what effects it will lean towards too. For me personally, greens tend to be the most reliable in providing the Kratom experience. And just thinking on it, I probably have had greens the most in all my experience. Though I will say reds have been a personal favorite. But greens I feel like can mimic reds or white at times, or just really feel like this even blend. While with yellows, it can be this even blend, but I feel like it tends to lean more towards one way or the other. While with green, it's really just represented by a good balance. This would be my go-to color for work, sometimes whites, but they can be too pushy at times, which we'll cover white strains in the next episode. But for now, we got these 3 trials here to go over, and we'll describe how everything went down with these green strains. So without further ado, let's dive right into this. Group number 3, green strains. Trial number 1, light dose, 2.5 grams. Green Ketapang, 9/9/2021. Okay, so for the first trial, the light dose, we took this strain called Green Ketapang. It was my first time taking it, and I took this in September 2021 and felt it in 13 minutes. The strain comes from Borneo, originating from within the rainforest, which this turned out to be a solid strain at this dose. Aside from my mood, it was great overall. It was mostly intrinsic, but the Kratom influenced this out even more. I was in the mood to be productive and was pretty calm and content. My energy was a bit elevated, feeling like I can get a lot done without it being very stimulating. Subtle but present, especially in the head compared to the body. Overall some mild uplifting energy. My sociability felt improved, and there was a desire to do so, something that hasn't come up much in these trials. Conversation with my girlfriend came with ease. Then for the food test, I made a solid. There was some slight appetite suppression even at this low dose, but the salad I had was so fire that this didn't even bother me. Some slight nausea did come up, but the taste of the food really outdid these effects interestingly. Normally, I wouldn't recommend this. For the work test, I did some general maintenance around the crib, doing some laundry, wiping down, organizing my desk, and then a few things on my computer. Overall, I had a good flow. The nausea did cause some bumps when I moved around, but nothing too much. And I carried this energy into the creativity test. I did some writing and really enjoyed it. I was able to jump into the story I was working on instantly, and it felt effortless. Much easier than how it would be normally, so a big plus here. For the physical activity, I did an ab workout, and this went well. I can't say there was an improvement or not, as it just felt like any other workout. I suppose my focus was increased with it, and I was able to bring power to it no problem. For the music test, this was banging. I listened to hip hop, and I had these kind of opiate vibes I get into, which just puts me into the experience much more. I was singing, and it was all beautiful in terms of the audio, adding this degree of euphoria and overall enjoyment. Then the watt test went right with this. I found this quick pace, and each step in itself brought a sense of enjoyment. Just treading along, feeling in my element. I won't say it was the greatest walk ever, but a really good one no doubt. And then last for the entertainment test, I tuned into this show I was watching, which I was watching the show You at the time, which I was able to get into this easily and enjoy it well. No discomforts or desires to do anything else, so this went really well. Overall some really solid effects for this low dose, which for me personally, this is my ideal Kratom dose. Trial number 2, medium dose, 5 grams. Green Real, 9/19/21. Okay, now for the second dose, the common dose, or the medium standard dose of Kratom. This is really a staple example of what Kratom is, so I'll try my best to flesh this one out. But this trial took place just 10 days after that light one. hence the dosage. And this would be the first time I would have this strain too, Green Real. I will say this strain was pretty standard and nothing too stand out though. I felt this in just over a half hour. My mood was good to start. I wouldn't say it was because of the Kratom too much, but I was just content and at peace with things. My energy was pretty stable. I had this forward momentum that was grounded by a calm state, making for this very efficient focus for me. My desire for sociability felt unaffected, but my ability to do so felt increased, as I did talk to my girlfriend a bit. The food test was really good. I had some cupcakes and the flavor was rich. Eating itself was just enjoyable and there was no nausea. For the work test, I did some organizing and some cleaning, which was the most engaging thing thus far. I felt like I had the right amount of movement, physically and mentally, and was able to act in a brisk pace and got lots of joy from this. For the creativity test, I did some planning with some videos and got lost into this easily. I felt like I had a good focus and didn't feel messy in any way with what I was doing. I was efficient with it and had an active critical mind. For the physical activity test, I did some handstand training for this, which I've been meaning to get a routine down so I can do a handstand better. It was more tough than usual, but still felt good. I saw where I needed some attention, and the burn I got felt good too. Overall it was enjoyable, but just slightly more difficult. For the music test, there was a slight enhancement. Some lists turned out to be real euphoric and chill, and I melted into the sounds a lot easier. For the walking test, I went to the store real quick. I didn't notice any big enhancements, but it felt pretty fluid throughout. When I was outside, it was nice to get some fresh air. And last, for the entertainment test, I decided to play some video games for this, and it went as expected. It was good fun, and the Kratom added an enhancement to it with the focus. So really this was a solid dose that wasn't too much or too little by any means. I wouldn't take this dose now, but I did have some tolerance at the time. All these enhancements and enjoyments are pretty typical for me on Kratom, though it can vary with the strain at times. Trial number 3. Strong dose, 8 grams, Green Mangda, 3/15/2022. Alright, and now the last trial of the greens, where we ended up taking 8 grams of the classic strain Green Mangda. I had a bunch of Green Mangda before this and still do today, which I feel like this is the most common strain out of all Kratom out there. I could be wrong about that, but it is super common. Whether that be green or not, Mangda will come across in all colors and tends to be a staple in the Kratom strains. And 8 grams, man, even with this tolerance I had, it was risky. But I took this in 2022 in March and felt it in about a half hour. To start, my mood was really content with everything, being at peace and relaxed. I was calm both body and mind, but also had a good degree of focus. It wasn't nearly as heavy as I thought it would be to start. For my energy, I was relaxed. A bit slower compared to lower doses, but still doing things at a solid pace. Sociability did increase a little bit. I was alone, but ended up texting a bunch of people with little effort. Just a slight boost. For the food test, I didn't have an appetite one bit throughout this, as you can imagine with this much Kratom. Maybe a few chips, but even then, I wasn't in the mood for it, as I didn't want to set off any nausea as I was feeling queasy as time progressed. So I didn't eat anything, which is an option for this test. If I feel like I'm on the verge and absolutely could puke if I ate, that's what we'll know for this test. But moving on to the work test, it went pretty well actually. I was able to dive into some work, which I was editing this video. I felt my productivity was boosted, and I had a keener focus on the audio and just putting everything together. Which this flow here is a huge reason why I like Kratom. It can be like coffee, but feel much more natural and not so stimulated. For the creativity test, I did some writing, which was similar to the work test. I was able to jump in where I left off no problem. Some books on the side I've been working on. I chose one I haven't touched in a couple weeks and really got into it with no effort. And for the physical activity test, I did limit myself because of the potential nausea, so I just did some stretching. But even with this, I did go slow as I did have a fear of overdoing it. I was pretty fluid though, and did the stretch as well regardless. Then for the music test, there was an enhancement, but I only found it with certain types of music. That drowsy slow rap, mainly cloud rap, but not strictly. Some artists I put on were Blade, Lucky, and Earl Sweatshirt. and it had a special kind of euphoria. With the walk, I thought it might be too much of a struggle, seeing I didn't want to move too much, but this actually turned out really beautiful. It was nice outside, and I went on automatic, which the music made this better, of course. I didn't walk fast, but pretty briskly. The flow came easy. For the entertainment test, I did some reading and it went like the other test. I was able to get into this easily and find a flow right away. Definitely an enhancement, but I did have some sickness which did slow me down as I had to settle myself out. Now we did have a meditation test with this trial, which did go a bit differently than other times. I normally do sit up, but I went to lie in the fetal position just because I was feeling so sick from the 8 grams. It felt good though, and I got some relief. So overall the actual trials went really good, and even though I did get nauseous and slow with it, there were some pros and I got through it. But a bit afterwards, I remember my girlfriend asked me if I wanted to go to the store, and this is where I fucked up. I thought that walking some more would actually be pretty euphoric and possibly calm my stomach some more, which this may have been true, but there would be a car ride there first, and so I got motion sickness. I remember just as we came to the stoplight, and just that quick change of motion sent my stomach off, man. It sucked ass, and I had to open the door like as she started driving and shit. It was pretty stupid, and I just puked straight green into the street. Immediately though I felt relief, but I was pretty pissed because I thought I was able to get through this. And I did get some more nausea actually that was pretty bad about 20 minutes later. So I guess the universe just had other plans for me this day. But a big reason was because I wasn't too careful. At least we got the trials done. But with that, we're gonna end things off there for today. I feel like we gave a good look at what can happen with these green strains at various doses. This again I feel like is a staple color, the standard for when it comes to Kratom, because it's not only the most balanced, but the most popular too. So let me know what you thought of this video, and if you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and like. Let me know what you want to see next. We'll have another part for the white strains, and then probably another on extracts. But then again, we may separate that from this series since it is a concentration. Either way, stay tuned everyone, check out the socials, it's been someone that's known one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.